where he does fall down is just this kind of the same trap that President Biden fell into, where, they highlight certain pieces of the economy that maybe don't really have an impact on a lot of Americans' lives, while the average American is just going, I'm still paying, a lot at the gas pump, and my grocery bill has not come down at all.
Well, let me ask you first of all, Amy, has some of the shine come off Donald Trump?
I don't know if the shine has come off more. I think that there might be a slight sense of he's almost a lame duck president. It's not quite there, but just the natural progression of a president in their second term. That's why the 100 days is so important in any presidency's term, any president's term, but particularly here, it's the last 100 days of that first congressional run. Next year, it's kind of accepted not much will happen. There'll be a big election, and then kind of the outcome of that gives him maybe another few months to get something done, and then that's kind of the end of it. So there's a little bit of that. Maybe the Epstein stuff, particularly when there was a sense of he wasn't going to release, and he was kind of pushing to not release the Epstein files. When that was happening, you felt it, but it kind of ebbs and flows. It ebbs and flows, at least when it comes to MAGA Republicans in particular. Regular Republicans are always sort of lukewarm, and then or keeping their distance, or it's always a dance.
Well, I don't know where to start there, but lame duck already, but we'll come back to that. But on the Epstein thing, is the problem just the sort of toing and froing and the chaos of it, or do people actually think there's something in the files that is damaging to him?
Right. It's interesting. It's a little bit more the toing and froing. It feels like had there been something, we would have had that already, or at least an inkling of it. There's a couple pictures. No one seems super surprised about that. Now, there's some new pictures coming out that that maybe have been pulled down from the DOJ's website, and so that could bring something out. But I think particularly when it seemed like Pam Bondi had said, I've got the list, we're going to have the list. And then suddenly there is no list, and you're not going to see anything. And this is a lot of to do about nothing, and mostly because the president himself rode that issue so hard during the election. I mean, it was a big cornerstone of his campaign, was let's release all the files. So of course it plays into it.
Is the problem now that people, the sort of soap opera, or almost the sort of Netflix, every sort of chapter ending on a high and starting with a, blaze of fury. It was all quite exciting for a little while, and now they're just trying to think, but what's actually been achieved? And in terms of peace prizes, foreign wars being stopped, it may not be top of the list, but again, it all starts to look, certainly from over here, vacuous. But critically, I imagine it's the economy, where there were high expectations that whatever the downsides of this man, he really kind of got that the average American was suffering. Are they now sort of reaching the conclusion that this is just some sort of soap opera and nothing is changing in their real
Yeah,
lives?
I think that that's a big part of it, right? So I actually think the president gets high marks over in the United States on international affairs, and I think that that is you'll see him pivot to that whenever he gets into some trouble. Whenever he gets into trouble, so for example, he gives a speech this week on the economy, basically saying, "Hey, everybody, you're doing great. You know, don't doesn't matter what you feel like. I promise you, the economy's great." And the very next day, Secretary of State Rubio is giving an expansive, really kind of historic end of the year wrap, if you will, like a Spotify wrap on what has been done internationally. And so I actually think he gets high marks there. Where he does fall down is just this kind of the same trap that President Biden fell into, where they highlight certain pieces of the economy that maybe don't really have an impact on a lot of Americans' lives, while the average American is just going, I'm still paying a lot at the gas pump, and my grocery bill has not come down at all, and I'm just not feeling this, brand new economy despite the bills. Now, that can all shift in the next year or 2 years. But does it shift in time of the midterms, which would really give him, could be power or could be not? That remains to be seen.
Do you think he gets it, or are there people around him who get it so that they are on this? And there's good old fashioned policy work going on. There's good old fashioned kind of execution going on, or is it just this soap opera?
No, I think certain people get it. So, for example, I know folks that are deeply involved in, for example, healthcare. We're going to come up against a wall with the latest, the big beautiful bill did things to the current healthcare system that are going to be a problem. I know there is a really earnest Republican working group that's trying to find a solution on this. Now, whether they can politically get anything done with the tight margin that is in the House, that is also a very good question. He would have to get behind it as a president. I also think, it's been an interesting time with Susie Wiles as chief of staff. She's for me, she's a fascinating person, and she seems to like very much get what's going on, and yet be able to get things done. And her interview with Vanity Fair, I think, really is illustrating that. Like she's understanding some of the issues, and yet she's on board. I also think Secretary of State Marco Rubio, with all his 17 hats that he's wearing, is also someone that really and truly is working very hard with the team to get things done. So there are certainly people around him working to get things done. He's just more of thrives in the chaos, right? And thrives in the Netflix show. That's why he announced the Patriot Games. So we've got 250 years next year for the United States. That's an exciting time. Our bicentennial was a very exciting time. But he's giving us, ultimate fighting at the Capitol, and he's going to give us now Patriot Games, which sound very much like the Hunger Games with two people from every
Yeah.
state. But he knows. But you know what? Most people I've talked to are like, "Well, I'm going to watch that. That's going to be exciting." He knows how to. He's a showman. So for better or for worse.
You mentioned Susie Wiles, and it's quite striking how tight this administration has been compared to the first one that was, chaotic and they were all sort of collapsing. And she's still very much on board. But the interview is telling in that it reveals certain chinks, I would suggest. I mean, I was very struck by her description of the president as having the personality of an alcoholic. What is she getting at there? And, how is he so relaxed about it?
Right. Well, because I think and I don't think so what I think, well, I'm just kind of surmising, right? That if you know people that have been alcoholic and then what we used to call them is dry drunks, then they are no longer alcoholic, but they still sort of have the temperament and sort of the unpredictability, and sort of the going off at once. I assume because she had an alcoholic father, that's a bit of what she's getting at, is that sort of, but he did not take offense to it at all. One, because I think he just truly, truly trusts her. And second, because he, is famously a teetotaler and doesn't drink at all. And so for him, whether it just didn't bother me. He's been remarkably standing behind her. There's so many parts to this interview, and so she was so open and candid, and he doesn't seem to have a problem with it. That is to her credit, though, as well, because I know people that have worked with her on the campaign and work with her currently, and they will tell you that she runs an incredibly tight ship, and I think he just recognizes that ability and talent, and knows that she's really important to the whole entire administration.
Final one for me. Again, struck by Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, pretty much anointing J.D. Vance as, the man that she thinks is going to carry on the mantle of what her husband was advocating, and basically saying he should run for president next time round, and the hopes are on his shoulders. You started off saying Donald Trump was a lame duck. Are we already starting to see the MAGA movement in their disillusionment focus more on J.D. Vance than on the man himself?
So this is interesting. I don't know that necessarily MAGA goes to anybody but Donald Trump. There have been, I think that is where you see, I think a lot of people think that there will be an anointing. I don't know that there will be. I don't know that Donald Trump will do it himself. And there does seem to be splintering, not around Donald Trump in the MAGA movement, but like who will be his successor. And it just doesn't translate to everybody. I don't think it necessarily translates to the vice president. It didn't translate to, remember, Don Jr. made a run at it. Eric has made a run at it. His wife, Laura, has made a run at it. There have been others that have really tried to be the heir apparent, and it doesn't translate. When you have a cult of personality like Donald Trump, it's kind of Trump or nothing. And those that attempt to be the same or and to capture that magic don't generally do that. So I really do think that when his presidency is done, it will be its singular thing, and that there won't be an heir apparent. Erica Kirk probably obviously really likes JD Vance and would like to help that along, but I don't think that even certainly she carries some sway, but I don't think that she will be anointing anyone either. It's just, I think we're going to see a splinter.
Amy, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
thank you for having me. I appreciate it.